Hey Jacob, your jalapeno plant, look how big that sucker is. Full of jalapenos. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a great, wonderful day, or had a great, wonderful day. Clipping me some fresh jalapenos from a plant that a good friend at work gave me, Jacob. And I'm gonna take these peppers. I'm gonna go travel over to the kids' house because I don't have a real good setup here. I'm gonna make me some jalapeno jelly. So, stay tuned for us there. Kids' house, you know, not gonna do a lot of, you know, filming around in the house. So it's gonna be a lot of, you know, probably like my talking hands going along. But, you know, because, you know, not to show off their house. But stay tuned here in a second. And we're gonna start making some jalapeno jelly. Great on a nice big piece of cream cheese. Some crackers. Okay, get my thinking juice going. Alright, so we're over here at the kiddo's house. I picked up about a little over a pound of these peppers. I'm hoping that's going to be enough. Once I chop the ends off, I'm going to split them, get the seeds out, chop them up a little more, and then we're going to throw them in the blender to start making our jalapeno jelly. So I'm just going to nip the top off, cut it down, and I just normally just take my knife and scrape just a little bit there on the side. And of course I'm going to rinse all these off and everything. And wear gloves, definitely, because I made the mistake the first time I made jalapeno jelly, and I did not wear gloves. So you definitely want to wear gloves so it doesn't burn on your hands. Plus also, you know, make sure you don't try to touch your face at all. And if you're a guy, avoid going to the bathroom. Not that I've done it, you know. That's a feeling you don't forget. I try to leave a little bit of that vein in there because that kind of will help it give a little bit of spice to the jelly. And I want a little bit of spice to it. I think they also said too later on when you're cooking it, you can make you like a little spice bag and put some seeds in there and boil it when you go to cooking it, and then remove it right before you add the peck. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping all these up, and I'll be right back after I get them all cleaned off, rinsed off, and get ready to throw them into the blender. Okay, so what I'm using here also, I forgot to tell you, is I'm just getting the recipe out of the Fall Complete book. Somewhere around here I have the recipe that I used to use for this, so I'm just going to try this out. So after you get it all chopped up, I got a little bit over 12 ounces. That's what this recipe is calling for, to make about, I think, 5 half pint jars. You're going to take your jalapenos, throw them in the blender with 1 cup of your apple cider vinegar. Pour that in there. And you're gonna just make it into puree. Yeah. And of course, before you start doing all this, make sure you have all your jars checked, that they're cleaned, your lids, I mean your bands and everything, your jars aren't cracked if you're reusing old ones, and all that kind of good stuff. So, excuse the noise, we're going to go ahead and hit this.
That's puree. I think that's good. Okay,
So I definitely
think that's good.
You want it really good.
there any jalapeno left? I mean,
Ooh-wee.
oh, that smells amazing.
Smells beautiful. Fresh jalapenos. Okay, now ready for the fun part. Okay, all my jars are in my canner. Staying hot. Getting ready to use. I got my puree that was 12 ounces of jalapenos. You know, stemmed and unseeded. I left a couple seeds in there. And it's got 1 cup of the cider vinegar. So that's all been chopped up. I take another 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, and it's just the plain stuff. I didn't do with the mother or anything like that for jelly. I don't think you're supposed to. So we're going to combine all that. Plus, this is the only thing I really would like to get less of, and I got to figure out how to do it better. Is it's got 6 cups of sugar that's going to go in this, and really like to not do that. But so we're going to boil. We're going to mix all this together and boil it hard, you know, on high heat for 10 minutes. So once we'll stir it all up, and then once it starts boiling real good, we'll keep stirring so that nothing sticks for 10 minutes. And when you're doing this, you kind of want to always do it. I'm using these, you know, those Instapot inserts that we got because I figured it'd be great because it will foam up. So when they start to boil and stuff like that, they'll really foam up. So you want kind of a tall pot to do this in, because the first time I did it in a small pot, not thinking, and yeah, that was a mess. And Shauna wasn't happy because I had green stuff all over the stove down there in Texas.
Taller pot, better.
You want a taller pot. So let me get this to start boiling. I'm just kind of stirring it all up good to make sure I get that sugar and everything all together. Then after we boil it for 10 minutes, we will put in, it takes 2 3-ounce packages of liquid pectin. That you'll put in, and then we'll boil it for 1 minute after that, and then it'll be ready to go into our jars. Okay, we're at our boil, and this is why they also say for the 10 minutes it needs to cook, you need to stir it constantly, because if you stop stirring, you'll see that it'll foam up here in a second, and you'll just start seeing that foam just rise and rise and rise if you don't keep stirring it. And of course you don't want nothing to stick, of course, but you can see how it's starting to do this little foam. And if you don't keep stirring, see how that foam just keeps building, that thing will overflow real quick.
Well, and it'll stick,
yeah.
Won't it?
So that's why you want to stir the whole time, because once you stir it again, it'll dissipate that foam down. And then when we get after the 10 minutes, like I said, we'll put in the liquid pectin for a minute. And then you want to take it straight off the heat and then just start putting it in your jars. Alright, so I need 2 packages of this liquid pectin. If you're lucky, you find it in stock at Walmart, but it was kind of hard to do.
But you can make liquid pectin by adding water to regular pectin. And there's a way to do it. It's just easier if you buy the liquid pectin. when your recipe calls for it.
I just kind of roll that tube up just to get it all out of there. And stir that all in real good for another minute. And after you put that in there, you'll kind of notice that it kind of stops the foaming a little bit. See, it's kind of bubbling. And you can kind of feel it a little bit, that you can feel it kind of thickening up just a little. And then we're about to take it off the heat and put it to the side. And then if you've got any foam on top, you know, just kind of scrape it off a little bit. All right. Take it off the heat. Okay, so for these half pints, it suggests that you just fill it up, your canner, with the jars until you cover up over your jar, and you can just dump the water out of your jar, and then we will ladle in. I got one of those little canning funnels. You're just gonna that kind of helps keep the outside clean. So it says do a 1/4 inch headspace, which normally on your jar is going to be, you know, that first little ring normally of thread. I normally just grab a little rag here, and be careful, of course the jar is already hot and the liquid is hot. Just make sure it's got no funk, no stuff around it. Center that right there on the deal there. Get your ring and screw that down. Woo, warm. Yeah, be careful, they're gonna be hot. And it says finger tight now. I found this little ingenious thing on a clearance one time, like years ago. Haven't used it.
The reason being is because if you've watched our channel, Jeff's idea of finger tight and actual finger tight are two totally different things.
Yeah, normally. So it's, you know, it kind of pops out a little bit. You set that down on top of your jar, and then you close it back down on it, and it's got these little arrows so that when you go to turn it, when the arrows line up, that's how tight it's supposed to be. And then you just lift
I'll
it.
get a close-up of that on the next one.
Leave it right on off. Then you can just take your jar and just put it back in the water here.
On the side of the jar.
Yeah, it'll come off. Lid on there. And this is made for regular and largemouth. Set it on. Clamp it down, and just turn it till those arrows line up, and pry it back off. And then you just put it back in the water. Grab your next jar and just pour that water back out. And it doesn't take long, they're already hot, so they dry out actually pretty quick.
And you don't want to take too long doing this because your jam will jelly up pretty quick.
Yeah. And you can see it's not a real clear, but like I said, I also leave some of the stem parts in and some of the seeds because give it just a little bit of a kick. The kids have always said they've liked it that way, and I haven't had a complaint yet, so. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And alright, let me finish this up. I've only got a couple more jars to make, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I made 7 half pints, and I think it said it was only supposed to make 6, but I did technically add a little bit more jalapeno than 12 ounces. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are empty. And that's just to kind of keep all the jars together, because to keep them standing up. If you don't add that little extra space, they kind of rattle. You have a chance of the glass, from breaking from when they boil. You need at least about 1 inch of water sitting above your jar. So I stick it in there, and all the way up there, that's 1 inch mark. So the water's right above it.
Perfect.
And so it's perfect for that area. We'll bring it back up to a boil with the lid on. Once it starts boiling, we'll let it go for 10 minutes. At our altitude that we're at, we're not above 1,000 feet. Then, once it's done, cut it off the heat, take the lid off, and still let it sit there for 5 minutes before taking your jars out and putting them on. And as you noticed, I was using this towel so that the hot jars don't go directly down like a cold countertop or anything. So put that on there, get the heat turned up, and we'll be ready to go here in a little bit. Alrighty, it's been its 10 minutes processing, and then another 5 minutes of cooling. We're gonna get in here and start taking them out. And voila, there's your nice pretty jar of jalapeno jelly. Just set them to the side to let them cool. And normally within just a little while, you should hear like a ping to know that the seal worked. If you don't push on it or anything, but the top is actually, it's up just a little bit. As it'll cool, the air and everything's releasing, and it'll push down and normally make a little ping sound. But don't touch the top, because you can make it do it itself. You want it to do it naturally. So you'll know if you go back later on and none of them have, if you've got one that hasn't popped all the way, and you go and push and it pushes down, that jar probably didn't get sealed correctly, and so you kind of like,
there's one,
the one I just pulled out. Then you'll need to like reprocess it so it would suck it down. So,
or you could grab a block of cream cheese and eat it right then.
Or yeah, if that was don't do, then you know that it didn't seal, so you can just put that one straight in the refrigerator and just eat it up, as soon as you can. And they just sound like they're popping all the way. I think that's the last one I just pulled out. So that recipe we did made 7. So yay! We know that they all pop, or we heard all of them make that little noise, so we know they're all getting sealed. And then technically, after they fully cool down, you can actually take all your rings off, and they're supposed to be good. I normally just leave the rings on there, so that, but I mean, if you do a lot of canning or something, you can always take the rings off so you can use them on other stuff instead of buying more rings. But it works. But yeah, that's looking like the stuff I like. Here's some good tasting stuff, boy. Thanks again for coming along. Sure do appreciate it. Definitely, I'm not an expert canner. I've just played around with it over the years. I haven't actually canned in quite a few years now. But just feeling a little bit more self-sufficient for our little homestead. So now we've got some nice jelly going. So everyone, y'all have a great, wonderful one. I can't wait to see y'all till next time. Later.